She asked the same question over and over, thinking she could force Karoline into a trap butt. By the time Karoline was done, the entire press room had turned against her. The room felt charged, the kind of tension that didn't need to be spoken to be understood. Reporters filled every row, cameras locked in place, and the quiet hum of whispered conversations filled the air right until the press secretary stepped aside, signaling the start of the briefing. Karoline Leavitt, sharp in both presence and words, took the podium. She didn't need to adjust the microphone. Her voice would carry just fine. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her gaze scanning the room. I know you have questions, so let's get started. A flurry of hands shot up, the usual suspects, the ones who'd been in these briefings long enough to know how the game was played. But among them was one particular journalist, Hannah Whitmore, a name known not just for her reporting, but for her relentless questioning of conservative figures. Karoline already knew what was coming. Ms. Leavitt, Hannah called, flashing the kind of practice smile that never reached the eyes. There have been rising concerns about right-wing extremism. Would you take a moment to denounce it? A question designed not to inform, but to corner. Karoline didn't react immediately. She didn't need to. Instead, she allowed the weight of the question to settle in the air. Her pause calculated, controlled. Hannah wasn't finished. Surely you acknowledge that this is a growing problem in our country, that this administration has been slow to respond. Karoline tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. Are you asking me to condemn political violence? Hannah's smirk flickered. Just for a second. Yes, specifically from right-wing groups. Will you take a stance against it here? And now that was the trick, the framing. The carefully worded setup that ensured any answer could be twisted. Say yes, and it becomes an admission that her side is responsible. Say no, and its headline material. Leavitt refuses to condemn extremism. The room held its breath. This was the moment journalists live for. But Karoline didn't give her an easy win. You know what's interesting, Hannah, Karoline finally said, voice even sharp. You've been at this podium. How many times now? Dozen more, and yet I don't recall you asking a single question about left-wing violence. Not one. A ripple of whispers moved through the press pool. Camera zoomed in just a little closer. Hannah let out a tight laugh, leaning forward in her seat. I don't think that's a fair. Karoline didn't let her finish. Last week, a sitting judge was targeted outside his home. Not a single network ran a headline about it. 2 months ago, a conservative student was beaten unconscious for wearing a political hat. I didn't see a press panel on that either. Hannah's smile thinned. We're talking about the rise of. Karoline raised a hand, slightly cutting her off. No, Hannah, you're talking about selective outrage. Let's not pretend this is about condemning violence. If it were, you'd be asking these questions when it's politically inconvenient for you. The murmurs grew louder. A few reporters exchanged glances, some looking down at their notes. Hannah opened her mouth, but this time she hesitated. Karoline leaned forward, hands resting on the podium. You came here today thinking you had a checkmate, but the truth is people are tired of this game, and they see right through it. But that wasn't the end of it. Hannah wasn't done yet, and she wasn't about to let Karoline take control of the room without a fight. So let me ask you again, Hannah. Pressed voice a little sharper now. Do you condemn right-wing extremism, yes or no? The air tightened. The next few seconds would determine everything, but Karoline wasn't just going to answer. She was going to make sure everyone in that room remembered what came next. The silence stretched just long enough to make Hannah Whitmore shift in her seat. The press room was watching, waiting for Karoline to squirm, to stumble, to hesitate. But she didn't. Instead, she gave a slow nod, acknowledging the persistence of the question, but not in the way Hannah had hoped. I understand what you're trying to do, Karoline said, her tone even controlled. You want a sound bite. You want a headline that fits neatly into a narrative. But let me make one thing clear. I will not play along. A few reporters exchanged glances. A murmur passed through the room. Hannah's jaw tightened. It's a simple yes or no question. Miss Leavitt, Karoline didn't blink. No, it isn't. And you know that. Hannah leaned forward slightly, her voice laced with mock patience so are you refusing to condemn? Karoline exhaled sharply through her nose stop right there. She held up a hand, not rudely, but with just enough authority to halt the reporter, mid-sentence. I condemn all political violence, but what you're doing is something entirely different. You're asking me to only condemn one side, and that's where the problem lies. A few seats down, another journalist scratched something in his notebook. A cameraman adjusted his angle. The tension thickened. Hannah scoffed, tilting, her head in disbelief. So you refuse to acknowledge the role of right-wing groups in extremist.